Hey, Professor Scott here again to show you how to insert data into your tables. Now, there are two ways you can do this. One, you insert data into the entire table, which means you have all the values, you know what the data is, you know what's going in those columns. Right? The second option is you have data for some columns and you want to insert in those specified columns only. All right, so let's take a look at how we approach that. So the first one I'm going to do, I'm going to insert data into all the columns in the table. Now, I've already created my table. I have all my statements typed out, so I'm going to just copy and paste it in SQLplus. All right, my table is created with no errors, so I'm going to move on to insert the data and show you the difference between both insert statements. Okay, so notice my doctor table, and this is why I didn't hit enter yet. In my doctor table, I can count the columns with you. Well, I already know it's 6 columns, but if you want to compare the values of the table to the actual columns that's there, you can. So I know in the doctor table, it's 6 columns. And if you count the values in the insert statement, you should get the same amount. And that basically tells you that you are inserting six separate data for every single column for the entire row. So look at this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right? So you're inserting 6 single data, one row of 6 data for each column. All right? So let's hit enter and let's look at what that looks like in SQL. Okay, so all rows are created, and let's do a select statement to view the data. Okay, I need to set my line size, so let's do that so I can make it less truncated. So now I'm going to repeat that select statement, and as you can see, 3 rows with 1 single data for each 6 column. We are going to go over this in a minute, but before I do that, let me go and show you how to insert data into specified columns. So using this same doctor table, I'm going to insert 2 new doctors that are starting on Monday, but I only received information for in regards to their names and their ID. So far, I haven't received information on phone number or salary as yet. So let's go ahead and create those insert statements. Okay, so I'm copy and pasting because I've already typed it out. So let's hit enter. Okay, so now 2 rows are created, but let's go through this line by line to take a look at it a little bit more just to see what's happening here. All right, so I'm adding value for only specified columns. Now that changes the whole statement, because you have to tell SQL what column to insert those data into, and you have to specify the data itself as well. And the way to go about that is to make sure that the column names are listed in parentheses right beside the table name. So if you look at the first line here, and let me just highlight it, it says insert into doctor, and then it does list the 3 columns that you will be inserting the data for. Also remember to keep your keyword values, otherwise you will get an error message. And then you can go ahead and type out your data, and of course single quotation for character values. Same thing with line 2, same thing repeated. Now if you go back, let me scroll up, and you look at one of the first insert statement, I did not list the column names because I knew that I was inserting values for every single column within the doctor table. Okay, so now that I've inserted 2 new rows with only the first last name of the doctors along with their doctor ID, let's take a look at what that looks like in our table. So as you can see, the last 2 rows that I added are in the table, and by default SQL does accept null values unless you specify it or unless you place a primary key beside a column name when you create the table. Click like and share, and subscribe to my channel for the next SQL tip.